So this week was the Oscars, and we're going to discuss that as well as Daredevil. And yes, I did finally see Captain America on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 243 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's very own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So this last weekend was the Oscars.
Yes.
And we have some stuff to talk about. I am going to get my little pet peeve out of the way. I don't know if I necessarily call it a pet peeve per se. It did bother me a lot, but and it bothered a bunch of other people as well, but the In Memoriam section of the Oscars, they really messed it up.
Yep.
Because it left out a bunch of names.
Tony Todd.
Yeah. That was the one that really bothered me. Of course, I've met Tony Todd on several occasions, and that really sucked that he got left out. Shannon Doherty got left out. Michelle Trachtenberg, who passed away.
Right.
She got left out as well. It really messed things up for a lot of people. I feel really badly for...
It did not go unnoticed. It was all over social media. They really called them out.
Yeah, and definitely for the families. I, again, feel really badly for all of you. Like I said, not like I was a friend of Tony Todd's or anything, but I knew him, certainly, and it really sucks. I can just imagine how it would feel to be his son or any of his family or any of their families. But we can definitely talk about the winners and losers. Well, we'll talk about the winners.
There were some surprises. After the Golden Globes, we were really expecting some really different results. It was very surprising.
Yeah, well, and again, Nora scored big across the board. And we talked about this before, this idea that you have two types of voters for the Oscars. You have the people who are basically waiting to see how everybody else votes because they want to vote pretty much the same way. And also this idea that some people, they want to show themselves as being the artistic type. And so they like to go for those artistic...
The underdog.
Yeah.
Let's give it to the underdog.
Yeah. And to some degree, I think Anora was that thing because, again, it is a foreign film. And after, of course, what happened with Emilia Perez, they were looking to move over. Now, not to say Anora didn't deserve an Oscar, not to say things like Mickey Madison didn't deserve to win lead actress award. Although, like you say, people thought it was going another way there. They thought Demi Moore, this was her year. And I pretty much thought the same thing, even though I will say, obviously, there are the people I thought were going to win. And there were some people I would have wanted to win, just because, of course, I have prejudices. I have my preferences, basically. Yeah, I mean, that definitely was a shock. And I know that Miss Madison has gotten some grief online and other places because there's this idea of the Oscar snub where people say something didn't get voted or put in the way that people wanted. And I feel bad for her if she caught a whole lot of grief about this. I remember years and years ago with my cousin Vinny.
Marissa Tomei.
And Marissa Tomei. And she was just getting into acting. She was in the same situation. And she won for Best Supporting Actress. First of all, it was a comedy.
Yeah, and that hardly ever happens in a comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And this is somebody that people didn't know, and it's like she caught all this grief about it, but then she went on to have an amazing career. And Miss Madison may wind up doing the same thing, and I hope so, because just the idea that somebody wins an award and they don't deserve it, especially if you won an award and you were surprised that you won it, and it's like, I can't believe I won, and everybody else was like, yeah, we know. That does suck. But again, I know there was some things I would have loved to have seen won. Obviously, I have my predilections. Let's talk a little bit about Wicked.
Yes,
because it did win in a couple of categories.
Yes, which of course, you know what I was excited about, which is what I always wanted.
Yeah, you're always about the
costumes. Yes, finally.
Yes.
Finally, it went to a musical or a sci-fi or something that wasn't a historical period piece, which I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And it really did deserve it. Every Land of Oz, the uniforms, each costume on each character told the story that it needed to. Everything from the wizard to the tiniest little person and little kid in the Munchkin land just looking up and saying, "Weren't you her friend?" Every costume told a story, and it really did deserve it.
Yeah.
It did. It needed it.
And also, Paul Tazewell, who won for costume design, first black man ever to win an Oscar for costume design.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yes.
That is great. Groundbreaking.
Oh, yes. And Wicked also wins for production design,
which means the sets
right.
and all those beautiful, like you said, the poppies that were real, or the tulips.
Yeah.
The tulips. Yep. There were real flowers and those houses they built and Shiz and the Emerald City, of course.
Oh,
The boats they built to ride in on and
and the train.
the train.
Yes. Which was an absolute
Mm-hmm.
real thing. I would love to have seen them get makeup and hairstyling just because Elphaba's makeup was amazing. But again, the substance got it for that, and I have no complaints.
It deserved it.
Yeah.
It did deserve it.
Yeah. And
we hardly ever get that in a horror film.
Exactly. I have no real complaints there. Sound, I would have loved to have seen Wicked get for that because, again, you had live singing on the set that they recorded. Dune getting it, that and for visual effects, Dune winning. There, again, I feel like you have a director who got snubbed. At least it gets to walk away with something.
And I can see that, where you had the live singing and everything, but they did create the planet, they created the weaponry, they created the sound for the alien dialects and the worm. How do you make this massive sound and make that feel like there's this giant creature going under the sand and coming toward you? And so I do understand that. Why?
Oh, yeah. The other real shocker was in the animated feature film category. Flo wins that one.
And I don't know what that is. I haven't seen anything, no commercials for it or anything.
Yeah, it is a foreign film.
That's
I will
why.
say
Okay.
It is on Amazon Prime. So if you got Amazon Prime, you can watch it. What's interesting about, basically, it's the story about a cat who gets caught in a flood. And what's really interesting about this movie, of course, it's the cat and other animals who are basically helping themselves. They're saving each other and all of that. What's also interesting about this movie is no dialogue at all. So there's no speaking at all. The animals don't talk, but they do help each other out. And the entire movie is played out without any type of language. It's
wow.
So, although, like I said, people were thinking Inside Out 2, The Wild Robot, things like that, this movie sounds interesting.
Well, I mean, Disney has dominated the animated category for always.
Well, yeah.
Very seldom do they not get that. So,
yeah. Well, they get to attack at two fronts.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Disney and you got Pixar and Laika, who has done some great stuff. It seems like they always tend to get shut out, which is a shame because I love their stuff. But yeah, for me, this Dark Horse winner, I don't hate this. I don't hate it. And I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it certainly has me intrigued and I'm definitely going to check it out. But Anora pulled a lot of wins with the writing, with the original screenplay, with the director. And of course, Sean Baker's got to walk away with a bunch of the Oscars because, again, Best Picture, he was the director, he wrote the screenplay. So he was the Swiss Army dude who...
Oh, yeah, he swept a podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Kieran Culkin for Real Pain got the Best Actor in Supporting Role. There have been clips of his acceptance speech. I don't know if you've seen them.
I haven't, no.
So the reason why a lot of people are talking about his acceptance speech is because he thanks his wife, who was in the audience.
Aww.
And when he won the Golden Globe for...
Same part, yes.
For the same part, he said he was wanting... Because they have two kids. There was talk about having another kid and the possibility of, well, if I win a Golden Globe. And she's like, oh, yeah, fine, whatever. And then they're walking in the parking lot after him winning the Golden Globe, and she's, well, what do you think? And she's just like shaking her head, and she's like, so now I have to give you 3 kids. You get 3 kids. He goes, well, since we're having the discussion, I really would like to have 4 kids total.
Uh,
And she said, yeah, I'll give you 4 kids if you win an Oscar. How about that? And he goes, and I've never brought it up until this very moment. Honey, love of my life.
We had a deal.
Ye of little faith. I love you. You want to get cracking on those kids? And of course, the look on her face.
Maybe it'll be
Priceless.
twins and she only has to go through it once.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, it's like, yeah, she'd only have to go through it once, but 9 months with carrying twins could not possibly be fun.
No, it's not.
But we got Adrian Brody, who won for The Brutalist, which he's been due, definitely.
Mhm.
Like I said, nothing against Mickey Madison. I do feel bad for Demi Moore. Certainly, I would have loved to have seen her get that finally. But again, that's the thing about the Oscars. It's like, they're people that you want to win. They don't always win. That's the way that it goes. They only have so many of those things to go around. And so if you're lucky enough to win, then, you get to pay your dollar and take your trophy home. So I did want to talk to you about Daredevil, since we got our first 2 episodes.
I haven't got to see them.
I'm not going to go into any spoilers,
Okay.
obviously, especially since you haven't had a chance to see it,
No.
the first 2 yet. I will say some things generally about it. I will definitely say that there was a moment at the beginning of the first episode where there was a lot of talk about how they had done a version of this and then just scrapped it and went back into the drawing board because there were certain things that they realized that people were going to want, and they wanted to give us those things, which they did. And there's a place in the beginning of the first episode where I was like, you sons of bitches. You messed up sons of bitches.
Oh, no.
Because part of what we want in the show is to get our hearts kicked around in our chest, and they did.
Oh.
They really did. And it's like we sharpened the knives they stuck in our backs. And I say that with all admiration, I have to say. Just be prepared.
Good job, Disney.
Yeah, I guess, I suppose. But getting to see the old gang together again has been awesome. They're basing a lot of this off of the Born Again series. And I like a lot of what they're doing in this show so far. We got the first 2 episodes. They've been violent. Apparently, they're going to get even more violent. But I love how they continue to develop Wilson Fisk as a character. He's one of the best characters in live action. And I will do a little bit of a spoiler. You can definitely tell that they are introducing more of the MCU into it. If you've seen the trailers, he's now the mayor of New York. And he has his speech about vigilantism in his city, where he says that people dressed as tigers or with a skull on their chest, or people dressed as devils. And he also mentions people dressed in spider costumes. So we get it. Now, of course, these worlds have crossed before, because in Spider-Man No Way Home, we get Matt Murdock.
Yes.
But I will definitely say that the show so far has hurt my soul in a few ways. But I've been really impressed with what they've done so far. And they're definitely not figuratively or literally pulling any punches. They're really bringing it. I hope that Marvel doesn't take the wrong idea from this, where they get the idea that it's like everything needs to be dark and gritty and violent and all of that. I think
just good storytelling.
Exactly. Not all good stories need the same thing. Extra pepperoni on your pizza is amazing. Extra pepperoni on your banana split, not so much. In good storytelling, sometimes there are elements that work in some stories. They don't work in others, certainly. And the strength of Marvel, or what will be the strength of Marvel, will be to be able to tell different kinds of stories, all kinds of different stories.
Yes.
I don't need a gritty Spider-Man where, Spider-Man's going around breaking bones and all of that.
We have that. We have the Punisher.
Yeah. Which, since you mentioned that, Punisher's getting a one-shot special.
Okay.
So that's going to happen. And I'm looking forward to that. And of course, we already know the Punisher's going to show up in Daredevil, the new Daredevil. And the faith that Marvel has in this Daredevil series is self-evident in the fact that, well, they're already started shooting season 2. They started mid-February.
Yay!
We're getting more, and that's awesome. I don't know if you saw the new trailer for Doctor Who that came out.
No.
It really technically wasn't a trailer that came out for us. It was for another country,
Ah, that's why.
but
Bootleg.
it leaked. And so we got to see a little more of what's going on. It looks like they're getting ready to kick out the jams, shall we say. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And one of the episodes is going to be the most expensive episode of Doctor Who ever shot.
Oh, it's a good thing they got that Disney money.
Yeah, while they still have the Disney
While
money.
they still have the Disney money.
Yeah, it's the episode that is basically Eurovision in space.
Okay.
And I can see where the money went. It's going to be crazy, go nuts, ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I do want to end the show with this. It's going to sound like I'm telling a joke. This is just a news article, but I'm not telling a joke.
So it's going to sound like it's the news article from The Onion.
It's going to sound like, exactly.
Okay.
So this week, the Liberty Theater in Washington State, there was a roof collapse in one of the theaters. Half the roof came down during a show. And it wasn't just like tiles and all that. It's like wood, and it was horrible. Fortunately, no one was hurt because the theater was mostly empty, thank goodness. There was a couple of people in the back, but that was it. It was during a showing of Captain America, Brave New World. I told you I'm not making a joke. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. It wasn't a joke. Now, some people were making a joke out of it. It's like, well, thank goodness it was Captain America. But I did finally go see Captain America this week. And while I was watching it, I had a good time.
Good.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
Good.
I'm getting this notion that maybe we have, as far as watching movies, it's kind of like you eat hot peppers all the time. And, anything that's just regularly seasoned comes along and it just tastes so bland.
Yeah.
I think this is a good example of that. I think it was a good movie. It's not like a crazy blockbuster, over-the-top type of movie, although I feel like if they had tried to do that with this movie, it just wouldn't have worked.
It's the carousel. It's not the roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The carousel isn't going to blow your wig off, but that's not what it's supposed to do.
Right.
For what I felt it was going in to do, it did. It kept me entertained. I loved the interaction between Sam Wilson and the new Falcon. I think their chemistry is great together. It's a great dynamic, and I want to see more of it.
Excellent.
I thought the pacing was really good on it. The only crime it ever committed was the fact that it wasn't an Avengers movie, and it didn't have a ton of cameos. Now, there were some cameos in there, but again, it wasn't your over-the-top blockbuster, but it didn't need to be, and I didn't want it to be. But at this point, people are a little bit wary because Marvel has swung and missed a few times. Especially with Disney Plus now, people are just more willing to sit at home and
wait it out
and just wait until it shows up.
Everybody's me now.
Yeah, but you still appreciate stuff. You're not staying home because you want to hate watch something.
Nope.
So
I got them geek colored glasses.
Exactly. So you still like this.
We should have them made and pass them out.
There you go. We definitely need a lot more of those. But I don't know how we go back to just being able to appreciate movies again. And I mean, if a movie's bad, if it doesn't deliver, then no, you shouldn't just like something just because you're supposed to like everything. But when a movie's effective, it gets in and gets out at a decent pace. And again, it's a shorter film, which I want to see more of those.
Yeah.
It got in, told the story, and got out. And if it was 2 hours long, it would have been miserable.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it didn't do that. It was a shorter film. It told a coherent story. It had me interested from start to finish. And I wish audiences at least would give those type of movies more of a chance because we need more of them, I feel.
Yes.
Again, I'm not saying this was like the greatest movie ever, but I don't need the greatest movie ever every time I go. Sometimes I just want a fun story and have a fun evening of watching a movie. And it was that. It was that for me.
You're going to have more double cheeseburgers in your life than you're going to have 24-ounce steaks.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And the truth is, if you ate 24-ounce steaks every day, you get tired of them after a while.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's what superhero fatigue actually is. It's having these blockbusters one after another and not having any kind of variety and different kind of stories. If you just continually do one blockbuster after another, you're going to get tired. You're going to have that superhero fatigue. And that does have me worried a little bit about the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out.
Mm.
I don't know if this is going to be a blow the roof off the theater kind of thing, but I don't want the Fantastic Four movie to do that. I want to hang out with these characters and have a good time. I want to see them be together as a family. I want to see futuristic 60s
Yes. It's
set
gonna be so
design.
fun. Uh-huh.
I want it to be fun and enjoyable. I just don't feel like every movie has to be this roller coaster ride, everything cranked up to the max. Every movie doesn't have to be 2.5 to 3 hours long every single time. I'd like to see some variety. I'd like to see the audiences give different types of movies the chance. And I'd like to see movies like Flow that take some chances and are not your typical American blockbuster movies. I like to see them get a bigger following.
Yes.
Will they? Well, I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 243. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.